New stuff every day, which is exciting.
And one of the ways to relieve stress, which we'll be talking about today, is humor. And I don't think anybody's talking about it today. So I brought a few dad jokes to start out today. And they're a dad joke, I think, if you've grown after I say it. So there's a fine line between a numerator and a denominator. You get it? It's a math joke, right? Only a fraction of the group are gonna get that. Okay, what do dentists call their x-rays? Toothpicks. Yes, picks, okay.
Good.
Did you hear about the first restaurant to open on the moon? It had great food, but no atmosphere. Yes, and what did one ocean say to the other ocean? Nothing, it just waved. All right, well, glad you are here today. Welcome to Ask the Experts, Tri-City Regional Chamber of Commerce's series to help business leaders grow their companies with practical advice and answers that you can implement right away. And a special welcome to those that are watching on Zoom today. You're a valuable part of our audience, and hello to you watching on YouTube in the future. My name is Paul Casey, and I'm the Executive Director of Leadership Tri-Cities, and it's my pleasure to be your facilitator today. This is a free benefit of your chamber membership, and it couldn't be possible without the generous sponsorship of STCU. And with us today is Jessica. Jessica, welcome our crowd.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jessica Curtis, and I'm in the Community Relations Department at STCU. And in the spirit of Thanksgiving, I would like to share that STCU is extremely grateful to have you here today. The timing of this topic is perfect, given that holiday season can sometimes cause more stress than joy. Taking the time to mitigate and manage personal stress is a trait of a good leader. We can't be good leaders to others if we can't lead ourselves. So I hope you enjoy learning from our knowledgeable panel today, and thank you so much for coming to Ask the Experts.
Thank you for your support of Ask the Experts. So for approximately half of our 90 minutes together, our experts will be presenting their gold nuggets on our topic of changing your mind, your health, and your leadership. And then for the second half, they will answer your questions. If you'd like to ask a question, and we encourage everyone here to think of one question, even if you're an introvert, we would love for you to think of one question to ask today. Whether you're here or on virtual, you can text me at 509-392-1895. So if you want to write that down for later or put it in your phone, that keeps it anonymous. Or you can use the chat if you're watching virtually, or if you're here in the room, you could just raise your hand. Whatever you would like, I'll be vetting those questions and feed those to the experts, and we'll get to as many of them as we can today. And they'll be happy to share their contact information with you. I think someone put their cards in the back, and you can always approach them afterward as well. So let me introduce our speakers today. This is Angela Dryden. She has been in the arena of self-improvement for most of her life. Graduated from East West School of Massage in 2006, got certified as a health coach in 2010, and in 2019 became a certified life coach from the Life Coach School. Things that help generate peace in her life include Bikram yoga, houseplants, gardening, and going for walks. Things she loves, even when it's challenging, are spending time with family and learning new things. We can make a comment there after Thanksgiving. Okay. She feels the most aligned with God when she is serving others. And her favorite quote is, "No one cares how much you know until they know how much you care." Then there is Lena Garza. Lena is founder of Nourished by Design and an NCCA certified health coach. She offers life and wellness coaching focused on habit changes, mindset, stress management, and personalized accountability and boundaries. She helps busy professionals who have poured all their effort into their career of caring for others, only to neglect their own health. Nourished by Design focuses on making you the priority and helps you get your energy back, stop being overwhelmed, and gain confidence. That sounds great. Since starting her own business, she has expanded beyond individualized coaching to include private and corporate wellness workshops. Gregoire, over there on the end, is a peak performance coach and a life and business strategist from Walla Walla. After spending most of his professional career in education, he pivoted to coaching and consulting. He now helps professionals, leaders, business owners, and organizations thrive by helping them streamline processes and improve communication through creative problem solving, custom action planning, and personalized accountability for real and measured results in health, business, and relationship. He currently offers virtual group and one-on-one coaching and also facilitates on-site in-person meetings for regional organizations. So let's welcome our panel today.
All right. Okay, so I gotta get my old lady glasses with me. That's what happens as you get older. Tell you what. Okay, so, as I start here, so I'm gonna be taking them off and on. I just apologize if that's distracting. So as, dealing with life coach and health coaching, one of the things that I really primarily work on is our mindset, is the thought process we have around it and catching our thoughts and becoming an observer of our thinking. And so I'm going to kind of go through some things today, and my goal is that by the end of what I have to share with you, you can take away some nuggets that'll help you just become more self-observed, like observer of your thinking. That's what I'm trying to say, yes. So become an observer of your thinking. One of my favorite books actually with coaching I wanted to share with you is 90 Seconds to a Life You Love. This is by Joan Rosenberg, and it is a fantastic read. It is a very good book. She talks about emotion. So if you ever say that I'm an emotional eater or I am emotional whatever, let's just put it this way. If you have an addiction that you are using because you don't want to face something else, you probably have an emotion behind that. And if that's the case, this book is a really good book to read. So this is just some really good stuff. It's just, she does a fantastic job. Okay, so let me go ahead and get going with our first question here. All right. So what is your life 3 years from now? Like if you were to look forward into the future and see yourself, what would you be doing differently? A lot of the times we look at that, and the things that usually come to most people's mind is the activity they do, like whether they're exercising or not, whether they're eating healthy, whether they're drinking more water, whether they're sleeping regularly. Those are great, but those are the actions. What's going on inside? How are you thinking about things differently that's now made you sleep better? Because the thought that you had is what generated you to decide to do something different. So, right, what we think about, we bring about in our life. And until we stop to look at that thought process we're having, we're going to keep on trying to make this external change and hoping that that is going to make the change in our life and not really working on the internal thing that is going on that might be keeping us stuck. And so when it comes to looking at 3 years from now, look at it in that term. Not just in the things that you're doing, look at it, how do I perceive things differently? How do I see things differently? What am I saying to myself? In order to get there, you have to be aware of what it is you're telling yourself. You have to catch on to yourself. If you don't catch on to yourself, you're going to continually repeat the same patterns that you had before. And that's kind of what we do, right? I mean, what is it? Insanity is repeating the same things and expecting different results, something like that. And we're really good at that. I mean, even me as a coach, right? I am good at that as well. And not until I stop and really, like, usually something has like hit me in the face and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have been doing this over and over, thinking that something was going to be changed. And I'm the one that needed to change it. It was my thought process that had to change in order for something different to happen. And so it is through that process that now we can start to see something different. And so thinking about that in 3 years from now, what is it that you are thinking differently than you are now? So here are some like thoughts that we might have. These are kind of the common thoughts that we sometimes have is, I don't have the time or money, right? I would love to be healthy, but I don't have the time. These are things that we say, and we might say them on this the repeat. It's just kind of our nature. And then we have things like, I should get up and exercise, but I'm too tired in the morning or in the evening, or I'm too freezing cold. It's cold out there and I want to stay in my warm bed, right? This is like this thought process that we're having. Eating healthy would be good. It seems like it'd be really good, but I don't even know where to begin. Like, I think I'm eating healthy. I feel like I eat healthy most of the time, but I still don't get good results. So I don't know where to begin. So these thoughts can be on repeat in our mind. And so when that's happening, we can kind of get stuck in our own thought process. So one of the things that I love to tell people about is this little guy here, the motivational triad. So if you look on this sheet of paper I gave you, you're going to see the motivational triad. This is our limbic system. This is the system in our body that keeps us safe and secure. This is the system that's automatic. This is why we've lived as long as we've lived on this earth. It's because we have a limbic system. And this is avoid pain. I don't want to do what's painful. I want to seek pleasure. Whatever's pleasurable, I want to go to. And I want to do it with the least amount of effort. Think about the things that have been invented around, like, I mean, Grubhub, all these apps, things to make our life easier, right? They're basing it completely off the motivational triad. They're completely doing it to exactly it's like that little tiny brain in the back of our head, it's that little part of that limbic saying that this is gonna keep you safe. And because of that, it keeps us in this kind of trap. And until we become a self-observer and go, oh, that's right. That's my limbic system. That's the motivational triad. That's why I'm thinking these thoughts that I'm thinking. So if I'm saying that it's cold, yeah, no, of course I am. I want to stay in bed. Of course I do, because I'm a human being and this is what I want to do. But I've decided to do something different. And then after that acknowledgement, you can start to move forward. So again, this motivational triad is kind of that little deal that we have. So one of the things is that when it comes to changing in our lives, right, changing our mindset and our way that we view things, is obstacles are going to get in our way. They're going to be automatic. The weather is going to get cold. It's going to be too hot. It's going to be, this is the holiday seasons. It's summer and I'm taking my, the time off of my health. These things are going to happen in our lives. And if we use them as an excuse of why not to do something, we can, absolutely, 100%. We can use it over and over again. And so knowing that these obstacles are going to come, how do you want to prepare yourself going forward? If you understand the motivational triad, then how do you want to go forward? What is it that you need to start looking at to move past that? And that is where we go to our power triad, where we go to the choice that I have that I'm choosing to make. I have made a decision to do it, and I'm going to evaluate afterwards. I'm not going to sit and evaluate for a long time and hoping that I get the right answer. Instead, I'm going to take an action on it and see what happens. And it goes into like that theory. So we start to kind of move forward then. So we take a choice, understanding the motivational triad, we make a decision, and then we kind of evaluate what's happened after that. How did it work out? So I went ahead and I got up early in the morning to go for a walk. It was freezing cold, but I felt really good during my day. So as you evaluate, you go, well, maybe it's not that bad. Maybe it's something I want to do. Maybe I can do this again. So what's that going to look like? Knowing that the back of your brain is still going to tell you, stay in bed. It's safe here. It's nice and toasty warm. Don't get out, it's cold. And then as soon as we kind of can open up and just acknowledge that, then we can start to make what I like to call a shift. So when we make a shift in thought, it can be very powerful, and it just has to be one little shift. It just has to be one little change. We swing on a pendulum a lot in life. Like we go from the all or nothing thinking. Like this always happens to me. This never goes right. Everything is always turning out this way. Whatever it is, we tell ourselves these and then we believe these thought process and they become part of our nature. They become part of our fabric of who we are. But then when we start to observe that, I go, oh, it doesn't always happen, but sometimes it does. Even just starting to change your verbiage to like sometimes, maybe this will work out, maybe it won't. Even that can like let up some of the steam of you moving forward in your life in health and whatever direction you want to move, because it then helps to kind of make it not so dire straits that you feel like you can't get out of it. This helps to kind of be like, oh, maybe it can soften a little bit. Maybe I can start moving forward in a direction that makes sense. So we want to flip the script. This is like a very basic thing that I teach a lot of people, to a lot of my clients, which is very easy to do. So we had the 3 things before that we talked about. I would love to be healthy, but I don't have the time or money. When we do that, when we end with I don't have the time or money, then we go, and no one's going to support me, and I'm never going to get this done. This isn't going to happen. We now go a list of excuses because we just ended with that. But if we flip the script, if we say, I don't have the time or money, but I would love to be healthy. What can I do next? What would be the next choice I could make? It now becomes possibilities and not defeating as soon as we flip the script in our brain. And now, the most fascinating thing about this is it's not even about that you're doing something different. You're actually like taking action, doing it different. You are thinking about it different and you're seeing that, oh, this is possible. This isn't so like dead end. There's nothing to do. This now becomes possibility focused because you flip the script in your mind. And all it is just taking your words and changing them just a little bit. You still believe in the same thing. You're just believing it in a different order. And so you can see truth in that. So it helps you move forward in a more focused direction. So another bit of this is right here, another flip to it. I should get up and exercise, but I'm too tired in the morning or night. I'm too tired in the morning, night, acknowledge, sure, of course I am. I just got done working, I'm tired, I don't want to get out of bed, I'm too tired. But I should get up and exercise. Now, in this scenario that I was showing here, the should, I always tell people, stop shoulding all over yourself. I mean, seriously, like we are really good at that, right? And so the should, we could go, I could. I get to. I might. It takes the leverage off. Instead of going from all or nothing, like I'm gonna eat no sugar anymore in my life, I'm gonna do this and this and this. We go to this extreme instead of going like, actually, how about if I just eat a little less than what I've had before? And that's it. Just make a little shift and don't think that you have to go all the way over to here to basically prove yourself something. I don't know what, we kind of play these little games on our mind all the time. And so it's a beautiful thing, but it's just kind of something that we do. So instead of I'm too tired in the morning and night, and I could get up and exercise in the morning. So what would that look like? What would I need to do? How would I plan that to make sure that I do get up in the morning? Knowing it's gonna be cold, I have my clothes laid out, I'm all ready to go. And so I go out the door and I go for my walk. Making those choices ahead of time and deciding that that's important to you, again, is part of that power triad, that you've decided, you've made the choice, and now you're evaluating what you did. And you see how it worked out in your life. So another quick flip of the switch right here is eating healthy would be good for me, but I don't know where to begin. Again, all you did is flip it. I don't know where to begin, but eating healthy would be good for me. What's the next step I need to do? Where do I go from there? When we start to do these little tiny things, it doesn't have to be this huge jump to over here. In fact, it shouldn't be. What happens when we make those huge jumps and we don't make it all the way, we think we've failed. I'm a failure. I can't ever do this. I'm always doing this wrong. Because we're making such a big leap. Don't make a big leap. We're not designed to do that, actually. What we're designed to do is start thinking about the way we're viewing it and how we can view it different without changing the actual action we're doing. Without changing that I'm going for a walk anymore. I just changed I flipped the script in my mind. And now I actually want to go out and walk. Just because I've now changed the way that I view it. I see it differently. So now it becomes more of, it's a desire that I have of wanting to do. And that's kind of flipping this, just looking at those little tiny shifts in the way that we see things are so powerful. And they're just little things. It really is the little things that when we look at them and we can make that shift in our lives, that really make a big change in the long run. We just are like instant gratification, like hurry up and get there. Like we want to, this diet, you do it, it's 30 days, you're going to all this stuff. We are so focused on that because of the motivational triad. Marketing, they know how to market to us. They know what we're looking for. We want whatever is easiest, it's going to be able to seek pleasure and avoid the pain. Let's do it. Sign me up. Right? Knowing that about your brain and knowing that that's normal. Nothing has gone wrong here, by the way. So when you think that in your bed that you don't want to get up in the middle, in the morning to go work out or whatever, and you think, what's wrong with me? I can't get this. Nothing's wrong with you. You have a brain. You have a brain that wants to protect you. It's designed to do that. And just acknowledge it for what it is and now go, but I also have a prefrontal cortex. I do get to decide. I do get to make decisions. What's my next decision? How do I want to move forward with this? And when you start making those shifts, it just really can impact your life over time. All right, and that's my time, everybody. I hope that that's helpful to you.
I love that you went first, and I was sharing this with her. I really love that she gets to peel those old beliefs off of you and help you see things a little bit differently so that I can come in and say, okay, see how we need to see it differently and how we can implement different actions. So I want to talk to you guys about how we can do things different to overcome stress or maybe even prevent part of it and maybe prevent us from reaching a state of burnout. I also will say right now, I am a recovering perfectionist and a past high people pleaser. So I have not mastered all of this. So I tell people all the time, this is something that I had to create to try to help myself through high stress situations, and I get to share it with you, but it's not a one and done thing. It's something that's going to be re-implemented over and over and over again. I feel like I'm going to break those. So the thing is that a lot of us, when we see people that are super stressed out, we're like, oh my gosh. Or when we feel stressed out, we're like, well, they're just happy-go-lucky and their life just must be so much easier than mine, right? But it's not the difference of the volume of stress in that person's life versus another. It's how they respond to their stress. It's their relationship and their response to their stress triggers that is making the difference between someone that's stressed out and somebody that's not. So what I want to do is share some tangible tips that you guys can implement that can maybe help you respond differently to your stress triggers. And it starts by focusing on what we can control. Now, there's going to be so much life that we cannot control and that we can't change. And we get to choose to come to a place of acceptance. Now, acceptance doesn't mean, oh my gosh, all these bad things are happening, I'm gonna lay down and they can bulldoze me. That is resignation. That is like, I'm done, right? Acceptance means, okay, well, it is what it is for now. How do I get through it? Right? So that is so different than just resignation. And we can't, well, we can, we try to worry and carry the weight and the stress of all the things that we're trying to push against and we're resisting because it's not fair and all the bad things happen to me and oh my gosh, and I can't believe it and I don't deserve that. Think about how much effort, energy, and emotions we are spending pushing against the things that we can't change, right? Instead, and you guys can do this activity at home, create 2 lists. The first list are the things that your efforts and your actions can change the outcome. That is list 1. List 2 is everything that you, no matter how hard you stress, no matter how hard you worry, no matter how much you try, you cannot change that circumstance. And that is list 2. And you take list 2 and you hand it over to the universe, fate, whatever higher power, something greater than yourself that was never meant for you to carry. And then you get to take all that emotion and all that effort and all that energy that you were pushing against and fighting and worrying and all of those things gets to be totally onto that one list where you get to focus on the outcome because your efforts can change the outcome. So when you are feeling stressed out and you're feeling stuck, focus on what you can control, what you can change, right? Having an absence of sleep, good nutrition, connection, downtime, things that bring you joy are not going to serve you. Depleting the body will make it to where it's really hard for you to weather the storm when you get hit with adversity and stress. So be really careful that if you allow yourself to get to a depleted state, how are you going to weather the bumps in the road that are for sure coming, right? So instead, make a choice to focus on your health. We have to choose. We can either make time for our health now, or we can be forced to make time for illness later. If I run myself into the ground, how am I going to bounce back? How am I going to weather it? How am I going to tolerate it? So it's as simple as listening to your body and making sure that if I feel tired, I mean, I have people I'm coaching, they're like, I just feel so ran down, but I really need to work out. And I'm like, don't work out. And they're like, what? Wait, whoa, you're a health coach. Why did you tell me not to work out? I'm like, your body is telling you it needs rest. I'm sure there's different things in your day that you could cut out. You could have the rest and wake up better and work out then. So you have to listen to your body, give it rest when it needs rest. If you are anxious and worked up and you have a whole lot of negative energy, guess what is the #1 most underutilized natural antidepressant? Exercise. I will be the first to tell you that I hate going to the gym. So I am not being a hypocrite, but I am saying that there are so many different ways that you can exercise. You can do a lot of things to exercise. You can just go out in nature and connect and be grounded. You can go for a walk. You can go to the gym. You could do what I like to do. I like to have immediate efforts shown when I exercise. So I would go and help a friend build a retaining wall. I will help someone clean their house. I will do something that will give me a reward at the end. So you've got to find what works for you. So don't set these goals of something that you hate. I hate going to the gym, so I would way rather do an exercise that is fun for me. So you gotta find what works for you. And you need to fuel the body. Don't just fill the belly, fuel the body. What are the nutrients? Like, I am a highly driven individual. I like to do a good job. Again, pardon my people, please. But I like to do a good job. But if I am going to demand that my body wake up and function and like be on it and do all the things and rock the day, but did I give it all the nutrients it needs to be sharp and to have energy? Or did I skip my lunch because I didn't want the afternoon sleepies? And I just work better if I work all the way through. What am I doing to my body? What message am I sending? Right? So focus on your health. And who knew saying no could actually gain respect for you? Believe it or not, and again, I tell you from the other side of it, used to be a people pleaser, I had no boundaries. When you start putting into place healthy boundaries, there's so much more respect. And if you tell someone, I'm so sorry, but I can't do that, or I can't do that in the area that you're asking, right? That is so much better than saying yes to all the things. How many of you are people pleasers? And you're like, I'm the go-to person, I'll do the yeses. And you have a big full of yeses. And then you're like, okay, I'm gonna do all the things. And then you're like, wow, do I have the time or emotion or the energy for all the things? And then you're like, okay. And then what happens when we don't have all the time and the energy to do all the things and we've overcommitted and we may end up under delivering? What happens when you under deliver? Well, then you risk the chance of tarnishing your reputation and losing the respect of your peers that pulled their weight, or of your leaders that had expectations that you agreed to, right? So sometimes having a healthy boundary and the no, or the not right now, or the not in that time frame, or the this came first, but if you'd like to reroute the priority, maybe that can be a yes, right? So when we think about stress and being overwhelmed and at a state of burnout, we think about, where am I placing my boundaries? Am I just giving away all the yeses, right? Or am I going, I'm gonna choose the best one. Anybody read this book by Lisa Turkis? The Best Yes? I see some nods back there. It's such a great book. She teaches us to understand, and it's all about boundaries, to understand that every time we say yes, we are by default saying no to something else, by default. Because I allowed something to take that space, so now something else may not fit. So we have to decide, is this going to be my best yes? And then we think about the people like you and I, Erica, with the big plate with all the yeses, because we want to be the go-to person, and we want to, you know, when they're like, oh, we need it done, who do we talk to? Talk to Erica. And you're like, yeah, that's me. And she's got the big plate of yeses until she realizes, okay, so they asked me to do this and I did the thing, but I'm so stretched that I had to do scheduled gymnastics and then pull in all my resources to be able to do the yes. And then I did it. And then they were like, oh, great. And you're like, wait, but that was a lot of sacrifice. And I had to make other people help me so I could get it done. And they didn't even appreciate it, right? Like, their gratitude did not meet my level of sacrifice. So then what are we doing? We're doing a yes with what? With resentment. We're feeling used or taken advantage of. So then how is that serving you by collecting all the yeses? How is this serving you, right? By not knowing which one is your best yes. And if I said no, guess what? Jeff or Amanda down the hall might actually get to go, ha, I did great. I just put the one yes on my plate, and guess what? I'm gonna hit it out of the park. So your no could become somebody else's yes, and they could nail it. So stop thinking that you have to do it all, okay? And this one, how many of you have been stressed in the last month? Just curious. Okay, all right, how many of you have been level 8 out of 10 stressed in the last month? Yeah, okay. Now I want you to think about how many of those level 8s could have been a level 2 had there been clear communication. or not poor communication. What we don't realize is that our stress, well, a lot of it comes internally, and we're gonna talk about that too. A lot of it is driven from our own core beliefs and expectations, but some of it is poor communication. If the person had been clear, I could have shown up at that level. Or if I had asked more questions before I agreed to something, you know, all of those things. So understand that clear is kind, unclear is unkind, and lays the groundwork for misunderstandings, missed expectations, frustrations, right? And again, it's all about being clear about your abilities, your limitations, and the expectations. This can save us from hitting that 8 level, right? And this can work in your work life or your home life. Think about how many times you asked for something or you had an expectation and you didn't spell it out. And then you're like, oh my gosh, they did not do X, Y, Z. And you're like, well, how did you say it? What exactly were you asking for? Well, they knew what I meant. Did they? And going alongside with communication is transparency. Now, think about how many of you have felt yourself in a situation where you were afraid to be transparent. You were afraid about whether or not you had the skill to do the thing that was asked of you. Whether or not you did it, but there was a mistake. Whether or not you did it and you didn't do it right, or you didn't have the right resources, and you didn't feel comfortable to be transparent to own it. Think about that stress. Anybody ever been in that situation where you bit off more than you could chew and you didn't have the courage to be like, okay, so I did the thing wrong and I probably shouldn't have said I could have done it. But instead of going and ask for help, I just held it. So then what happens? Do you feel that bubbling and that stress in that situation where you weren't being transparent? So I love this quote. A mistake that makes you humble is better than an achievement that makes you arrogant. Right? How many inventions would we be missing out on if people were afraid to fail? Afraid to say, I screwed up, I own it. But guess what? This screw up showed me that I've totally got to go this way. And then here's the way that I need to adapt. And then I'm going to challenge and go the other direction. But if we are too afraid to own our mistakes, we're stuck. There's no more growth, right? So we have to understand that the lack of transparency is creating that added stress, but it's also stunting our progress. And with transparency, think about being a business owner or a leader. If you are a leader and you own your mistakes, do you know what you're doing? You are giving permission to your team to be human and for them to go, oh, well, that totally didn't work. Okay, let me try again. Hang on a minute. Let me get back to work, right? But if I won't be honest as a leader about me making mistakes, what's going to happen to my team? They're like, oh, I don't want to try it because it's a thing I don't know how to do. And if I do it and I don't do it right, oh my gosh, oh, I screwed it up. Don't tell anybody. Right? So as leaders, we need to own our mistakes and we need to be transparent and we need to say, I have limitations. And guess what? I know you're really good at that thing. How about you do it with me? Because I could really use your help. Right? Any of you go to sleep thinking this on repeat? Yeah. I said I'm highly driven, right? Some of you highly driven, you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't do it well enough, right? How many of you in the last 90 days have felt like you're just not cutting it? Anybody? Yeah. Then I want you to ask yourself, if you're not cutting it, for who? Whose expectation are you not cutting it for? Is it here? Because chances are it's probably here. It's probably you having this expectation that's completely unrealistic and you are repeatedly letting yourself down because you've set this goal that is not achievable. Because you forgot that you're human, right? How many of you at work have been facing some situations that you haven't faced in the last 5 years? Yeah, right? So let me ask you something. All right, so 5 years ago, I'm gonna use Erica, thank you so much. 5 years ago, Erica's 100% effort used to perform up here. Now she's got some obstacles that she didn't have a few years ago, and her 100% effort is now arriving here. And she has a choice to be frustrated about this or give herself grace and understand, like, hey, we have supply chain issues. I mean, she's a nonprofit, so it's a little bit different. But we have short staffing. We can't seem to hire anybody. Everybody's sick. You know, you guys are facing things. Oh, that was hit a nerve. You guys are facing things that you didn't have as these huge everyday obstacles before. So it's time to adjust your expectations. And understand that as long as I'm still giving my 100%, I am grateful for where I'm arriving because I'm navigating so much more, right? This is my explanation. Burnout happens when you avoid being human too long. I've attempted it. It doesn't work out very well. So we need to stop glorifying being busy, and we need to understand that it is not a badge of honor, right? Burnout is not a badge of honor. And if you've ever spent time with somebody that's burned out, you'll know. Tip number 4 is setbacks are temporary. Know that nothing lasts forever. Not even trauma, pain, adversity. It will not last forever. It can get better, but it will take your active involvement in your own healing. You can't just bulldoze over and go, I'm done. All these things are happening to me. No, you have a choice. You have a choice to succumb to the circumstances and be a victim, or to adjust, learn, adapt, and move forward more equipped because of it. So I don't know about you, but when I was laid to bed at night and they kissed my forehead and they said, "Good night, sweetie," I always thought that "good night, sweetie" was your life will be simple and there will be no bumps in the road. I don't know why, that every day of my life, I thought that there shouldn't be any obstacles. And every time there was an obstacle or something didn't go right, I'm like, so offended. Any of you ever get really offended that things don't go right? I was constantly like, oh, nothing ever goes right for me. Why? Well, the thing is, I'm here to burst your bubble. Nobody ever promised us life was going to be easy. I just absorbed that core belief and was rolling around being offended by it. The thing is there's going to be bumps in the road. I'm telling you right now, there's going to be more. So if you just come to a place of acceptance of, guess what, things may or may not go right. And I don't mean like be doom and gloom and be like, oh, all the bad things are coming. That's not what I mean. What I mean is plan for the unexpected. Okay, this is how I want it to go, but my plan B is, things kind of go wonky. Here's where I'm going to go. This way, you are more equipped to adapt. You're not going to be just like thrown off track and totally derailed and frozen in your tracks because, well, but I didn't think that would happen. Why are these things happening to me? Instead, you're like, okay, well, I had a plan B just in case it didn't exactly look like this, but I kind of have a direction to go. And then you can use the way that you went through that as like a blueprint to create for next time that I run into some big obstacles. Guess what? I kind of know what to do. And then I become more confident in myself that I can do some hard stuff. I like to cuss, but I didn't. So tip number 5 is be kind to yourself. We need to practice self-compassion, be loving without judgment. Those of us that struggle with perfectionism, which Martha Beck said is a self-inflicted wound. Oh, let that sink in. Perfectionism is a self-inflicted wound. You will never live up to that. Well, first of all, none of us are perfect. If you ever met someone that felt halfway perfect, they're probably not very happy. Right? And probably not very enjoyable to be around because they're trying so hard to be perfect. I've been there. It doesn't work. So be kind to yourself and start adjusting your expectations. If you are handling things the best that you can, be proud of yourself. Celebrate the small goals. Give yourself those wins, right? Health is not just what you're eating, it's what you're thinking and saying, but it's also what you are surrounding yourself with. And if you think that things you're surrounding yourself with are not adding to your stress, you are sadly mistaken. Anybody ever watch news and feel different afterwards? Anybody have a negative Nancy friend that you allowed to come over and then when they left, you're like, you're like, why did I sign up for that? Okay, or a family member, not herself. Your mind is a powerful thing. It will find what you feed it. So if you're gonna feed it negativity, it will find all the negative. But if you want it to change, start feeding it positivity. Thankful people, it isn't thankful people that are happy. It's happy people that are thankful. Because being grateful turns what we already have into enough. It's like, whoa, there's people that have less than me and I'm unhappy with what I have. And it's not always about a comparison, it's just being grateful, right? And lastly, ask for support, especially being a leader or an owner. I want to tell you that asking for help is not a sign of weakness. Remember, you're human too, and you have to get permission for your team to be human. And if you are like anti-human, how are they going to be human? They're like, man, this is a really hard thing to live up to, right? And if you ask for support, well, first of all, we were never meant to do life alone. All of us contain skills that support each other and can collaborate and make it better. So asking for support is showing wisdom, that you are resourceful and you know how to get things done in a faster manner by tapping into your resources, right? So I want to tell you that whether it's a peer group or it's a mentor or it's a coach, and my mentor is here today, Gary, has helped me and everybody needs somebody to support them. And the thing is that when you ask for their input or their insight of your team or your peers, they realize that you value them and that your opinion matters, and it boosts their self-confidence and it gives ownership over the project. They want to see you succeed. You just used their advice and they're like, wow, you really like what I have to say. You value my opinion. So all of these things taken together, and yes, we kind of move them into a business atmosphere, but if we could make some of these shifts, you could make huge changes in the stress at work or in your life, right? Just by acceptance and focusing on what you can do and by clearing things up better and by tapping into your resources, life can feel so much different. I just want to encourage you to try to implement some of these and practice them over and over and over again, because it won't happen the first time. And now we get a breakthrough at the end.
Wow, I'm so happy to be here. Let's, if you want to be healthier, go ahead and take your stand up. If you want to be healthier, go ahead and stand up. If you don't, that's fine. Great. So if you'd like, more success in your business or in your profession, raise one hand. Okay, keep both hands down if you don't. If you want more success in both your profession and in your relationships, raise both hands. Awesome. Give me one clap together. Give me two claps for the chamber. If you want, have a seat. So what I'd like to do, and Angela, Lena, Paul, thank you so much for having me. This is so much fun. You really set it up to help more people, and that's the place where I'm stuck in my life. I'm like, gosh, I just need to help more people. So what I'd like you guys to do is think about those areas of your life, your health, your business or profession, and your relationships. And those three areas, right? And if you want to write some ideas down, go ahead and write ideas down. emotional health, mental health, spiritual health, energetic health. Think about your business or profession. Think about everything that's underneath your control, right? Your house, your business, your job, and then think about your relationships. When you think about those three areas of your life, yourself, your business or profession, or your relationships, I'd like you to key in on an area that you think you might be stuck in. An area where you know you can apply some knowledge you either have before you came in here today, or some ideas that Angela or Lena have sparked in your mind. And I want you to write some of those down. An area where you may be stuck in your personal or professional life. It could be in your health, could be in your job or business, or it could be in your relationships. It could be in multiple places, okay? Multiple different areas in your life. So take a second to do that right now. Circle something that you think you know you can implement a change to. You just haven't implemented yet. And as you think about those things, I'm gonna give you an opportunity to use some resources here. Myself, Angela, Lena, and Paul, might phone a friend of Paul, to see if we can get you unstuck in some area of your business or your personal life right now. I live for this stuff. If you know me, if you really know me, you know I live for this. And so what I'd like you to do, I'd like you to think about being vulnerable for a second. I'd like you to think about being brave. As Lena said, being transparent about a place in your personal professional life where you think you'd like to implement something, you just haven't implemented it yet. Does that make sense? Okay. So what I'm gonna do now is look around the room for a brave individual that's willing to share. Be brave, be vulnerable, and be transparent. What I've noticed in this work, I don't know about you guys, what I've noticed is that the people that are most vulnerable are oftentimes the people that make the biggest jumps. This is your chance to get some awesome free coaching from one of us. I'll do it, okay. Stand up if you'd like. Yeah. Thank you. Love to hear it. Where do you think in your personal or professional life you're stuck and you would like to see some forward movement?
Well, I am stuck. I was a walker. I was in a bad car accident in December of 2019 and had 2 11-hour back surgeries and am stuck at a spot right now where I have to decide if I want to go for lucky surgery number 3 or stay on pain management and all this kind of stuff for the rest of my life. And that's a huge decision because I'm 61 years old. I know I look 41, but I'm 61 and I'm a big man, and that brings a lot of issues to the table. So my wife, my doctors, all of us are weighing out the pros and cons of what to do. And the plus side is if the surgery works, then I say goodbye to the walker, I say goodbye to pain pills and get my life back. If it doesn't work, I could end up worse. Not really sure how, but I could end up worse. Lots of things could go wrong. So I'm at a spot right now, and my wife and I just moved here in September. So that's why I have the confidence to do this. No one in this room knows who I am.
Don't know anything.
What the heck? So that's a very, very big spot to be. And that decision will be made in the next couple of months. So it's not just a decision that's floating around out there, it's very real. And so that's a big thing. So that, you said of health or businesses or relationships or whatever. So that's a real big one for me right now.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
I think everybody in this room goes, dang, like, that's a real tough decision, right? No one is like, oh, I have the answer. No. So which direction are you leaning? How are you gonna make that decision?
Couple more meetings with my doctors and surgical team to get a little more input. A little more conversation with my wife about the pros and cons, a lot of prayer. And I feel that the right answer will become evident. It's not there yet, because I don't have a clue. And in a way, I try not to think about it, because it's scary. Because I don't know. Yeah, the thought of staying on pain medicine 3 times a day for the rest of my life stinks.
Yeah.
Because I get up, shower, go to work, come home, and that's it. That's all I can do. That's the best I've got. I love life. I love what I do. But that's stinks that I'm still kind of mad about the car accident and all this stuff. So there's all of that. So I don't know.
It sounds like you have a plan in place to make the decision.
Yeah, that's well said. There is a plan to come up with a plan. And I'm planning on doing it.
You've committed to doing that.
Yes. And the real interesting part is I only get one shot at it. Once we arrive through all of this pre-stuff, then once the decision's made, then that's what I'm stuck with. If I decide, nope, I'm not gonna do it, then that's it. There won't be another opportunity to move forward with it.
Do you mind? What's your confidence level in the resources that you have available to you to make this decision?
That's a great question. Some of them are very high. Some of them are trusting them because they say they're really good, like all of the medical people. I'm just meeting these people for the first time.
Right, so there's not a trust level there yet.
Right, I am told to trust them
Right.
because they're the best at what they do. And people from all around the world come to see these people and so on. And so, and that's probably true, but I don't know them. They don't know anything about me. So the trust that's trying to be developed is a very surface and implied trust right now. There's no earned trust there yet. And we have to get to that. But as far as, trusting in my wife, she's been telling me what to do for 32 years. And she's very good at it. So, I value her opinion. I value the opinion that my faith and my church, and that will give me, not everyone in our church, we're not gonna take votes. But just, that brings to the table.
Yeah.
That's probably where I have the most trust, because I've had that the longest. And then my wife, my daughter, my son-in-law, I have a 2-year-old grandson who I love. And so, all of those things play in. So, yeah, there's real trust and there's implied trust.
What's your name?
Pat,
Pat, thank you so much for being vulnerable.
Yes, thank you.
well,
Let me know what you decide.
okay,
I'm curious.
yeah, thanks.
Pat?
Also maybe challenge you, Pat, that you said something that I think, here, I'll stand up so you can see me. You said something that I think maybe has taken up space. And it was, I'm still angry about the accident. And I truly believe, in most healers or people that believe in healing and being a part of that journey, understand that we store trauma, and that would be a stored trauma. And so I would love to encourage you to spend some time kind of finding out how you can heal in that area, because it might give you a little more clarity on what the next move is.
100%.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you, Lena.
Body can't heal, the brain doesn't.
Yeah, so good.
Wow, that's great. I'd love to hear from a few more people. Cause I've got problems, right? So I have problems, everyone does, right?
Do you, I mean, I'll volunteer.
Yeah, I know, I'm like, I'll volunteer too.
Okay, let me pick one.
We pay for
Let me
coaching
pick
all the
I
time.
know, I'm like, I'll volunteer.
Okay, so I recently have, you know, you heard me say that I'm a recovering perfectionist and people pleaser, right? So I grew up in a house with 3 brothers and I was constantly trying to convince people I was as good as the boys. I could do what they can do. I can do what they can do. I can do what they can do. I can do. Well, as I got older, it didn't separate just between my brothers and me. It was, well, girls are as good as boys. Girls are as good as boys. Let me show you, let me show you, let me show you, right? And then it was anyone. Well, I can do what they can do. I can do what they can do, right? And I'm saying this because I've now come to a place of understanding of, wow, that's where that came from. I need to put that in check, right? And that was driving my perfectionism and my highly driven and all the things. And then I became a parent. And then it was, okay, when do you put on the gas and when do you take it off? When do you put on the gas and when do you take it off? Right? So I'll leave you with that.
Give me more. Where specifically?
I think, you know, I always want to be better at the balance of motherhood and entrepreneurship, right? Like when you see an opportunity as a business owner, you're like, okay, do I go full force? Or do I go, hang on a minute, my kids need me and they're at this certain stage that I need to be present, well, which is every stage. But we tell ourselves, well, this is the stage, you know? So I guess when you say circle the thing or what is the thing that you'd like to be better at, I would like more grace, self-grace, to be able to decipher that balance. Does that make any sense?
More grace to decipher the balance.
Yeah, because I can make those decisions, but they come with weight.
I love this.
Hey, nobody volunteered, I thought.
I love that. Where are you going to give yourself grace?
I think more recently, I no longer feel like, hey, I can do what they can do. I gotta prove it, prove it, prove it, prove it. I'm no longer there, which gives me some space in my life to know that I don't need to prove it. I know it. I know that I have my own self-worth and it's no longer wrapped in my performance. And so now I'm able to give myself a little bit of grace to go, okay, I'm all right if I take my foot off the gas pedal. Because what's more important for me right now? And right now it's the teenagers that are losing their stuff. That's what's important right now.
Is there a specific decision coming down the pipeline that you're gonna make around any of those things?
Yeah, it's more of the commitment to overload the schedule or not. Because it can be done like that.
The commitment to overload or the commitment to not overload
Right,
the schedule?
because as I say yes to one, I'm default saying no to the other.
So would you make a commitment to overload? Okay. Okay. So is there a specific decision? Like, cause committing to overload the schedule or not is like kind of general.
I know it is. So I've been requested to start engaging in more trainings, which would take a lot more time. And so do I want to offer it just for those requested, or do I want to open it up and offer it with others? So it's like you kind of decide like, oh, am I holding myself back? Or do I say, okay, I'll do it for you because you requested, but then I'm gonna pull it back in?
So I'm not a people pleasing expert, but from the outside perspective,
Yeah.
like, I think I see something happening
Yeah,
there.
sure.
Well, I mean, would you say yes to something that would appear to be people pleasing from the outside? Like, cause I'm hearing something that sounds like people pleasing from my.
See, that's good, and I don't know that answer because it is something that I enjoy, so therefore it's self-serving and I would be paid for it. So is it people pleasing? I don't know. I don't know.
When will you make the decision?
Well, I don't have to make the decision. I don't have a timeline to decide to offer it to other people. I don't have a timeline on that because if nobody knows I do it, then nobody knows.
But it sounds like it's something you're contemplating.
Yes, because if I'm doing the work, so, okay, so like if you put together a program that you're gonna offer to the masses, but you did all the work and then you held it just for a few.
Just for a few?
Yeah, so this is where you're like, but if I'm gonna do the work,
Well, you can do it with a few and see if it works and you like it, and then give it to more after you refine it.
right, so that, I like that, and that also buys me time because of the ages of my children. Right, so I can lay the groundwork and create it and then just withhold it, except for those that had asked for it, until my kids reach a certain age that I have more time freedom.
Yeah.
So I like that. Cause there is not a time decider, you know, there's no time pressure.
Yeah.
What age is that for your kids?
See, and I think this is part of my disillusion.
Yeah, it is.
I think this is part of my, which
Yeah.
honestly,
Yeah.
one of you guys should have volunteered.
Yeah.
We got 2 more minutes if someone has a burning
Yeah,
idea.
did you guys finally come up with something that you want to be vulnerable about?
We still want to know the age.
Okay,
Yeah.
see, I think this is where I'm going wrong, is I keep thinking in my brain, they need me less at ages like, what, 16 to 18, but I haven't fixed. I know, see?
It's not better there than it is here. It's like it's like, it's better here, it's gonna be better here, it's gonna be better here, so instead of going like, wait, no, it's good right here, what do I wanna do right here is what I need to ask myself. Doesn't matter about this future, it's like, keep on, you know, and using the things like always. It's always, there's never, you know, I
Yeah.
heard you using that language and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, you're telling yourself it has to be happening instead of going like, wait, no, like I could just love it right here. And
Yeah,
I'm gonna love it right there too.
yeah,
It doesn't matter either way. I'm gonna still love it if I choose to,
right.
right? So if I choose to,
So
that's
just
what I want.
having giving myself permission to apply the gas, and pull the brake.
Yeah,
Right, and
yeah.
just be okay.
There's not a set thing, like, it's like you're wanting a set thing, like there
Right.
should be a set, like, just tell me when I'm gonna have to do this.
Right, when do I get to stop being a mom? I'm kidding, that is not what I was asking. I'm kidding, I love my kids.
Yeah, I love
I'm
it.
just saying all the things you all wish
I
you
love
would say.
No, I love it. It's true. Absolutely. Yeah. No, that's good.
Thank you. One of the experts on self-compassion is, her name is Kristen Neff, N-E-F-F. If you want to look that up, if you struggle with beating yourself up or your self-critic is going crazy. So Kristen Neff is great on self-compassion. You can even take the quiz online and see if you're doing well or need some help in that area.
Awesome.
Okay, it is time for questions. So if you're here, you can just raise your hand. If you are, or you can text me if you want to stay anonymous. Or if you are online, you can put it in the chat. So we have one scenario, and you can't interact with this person too much because they're online, but maybe coaches, you can give her some good questions. Mackenzie is trying to decide if the stress of working full-time is worth the stress of preparing to be away from my 5-month-old or working remotely while caring for her. The money is helpful, but we could survive off of one income. Do I pursue my career or do I stay at home?
Oh my gosh.
What questions would you?
May I?
Yeah.
This was Mackenzie?
Mackenzie, yep.
Mackenzie. Okay, so I'm gonna sound like a total hypocrite, but so this is. When I left my job, and I worked for a dentist for 10 years, and I left my job to care for an ailing parent, but I had a newborn and a 2-year-old. Sobbing, telling him I'm leaving, I'm so sorry, I was letting him down. My entire identity was wrapped into my work ethic. And you know what he said to me? Nobody looks back on life and says they wish they would have worked more. And that was it for me. It was like, oh, wow, okay. So then you ask yourself, is it a choice? And I heard a choice in her statement, which is we could swing it. The money would be nice, but we could swing it. Well, I ask you, can you make more money later? Can you get the time with your child back later? So that would be something for you to consider. I don't know if anybody agrees with me, but
I agree.
coming from the person that said, when can I stop being a parent?
I would also ask, I'd like self-reflect on that and say, what is it that I want to be accomplished from working? Like, is there something that I'm looking, is there an identity part of working? Is that what I want? Is there an identity work with being a mother with my child? Like, what does that mean to me? Because you know, there are women, and I would probably be in that category. There are women that are great with their kids at home and all that stuff, but there's a desire that's inside of them for something else. Not that my kids mean less to me, they absolutely don't. I absolutely love them. What I'm saying is that I believe that there's something for me to do in a community, and if that's driving you, if you decide not to do something because I now need to be home with them. You gotta make means with that. You gotta decide that is where you want to be and asking yourself questions in the way of saying, you know, what is my identity within that? How do I want to see myself in 3 years from now? Will I be glad I did this? Or in 3 years from now, would I want to start working again? Or would I want to be home with my kids? Or in 3 years, would I work now and then I'd stop working? Because I want to be home with, but what does that look like for you? I mean,
Totally agree that you know, what's the driving force of wanting to work? And if it's not just money, identify what it is.
Yeah.
But also identify a time period.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to work for a short time, but you don't want to work for a long time. Or is this a long-term commitment or not?
I think that's one thing about work is we think like it's gotta be for 30 years, it's gotta be for, that's not true. You could work for 3 years, it's fine, and then you could take a time off and then you can go work for 2. It's your choice. We just have this idea, I think as a society, we have a concept that it's 30 years, I retire, the whole thing, right? And that just realize that you're wrapped around that concept because we are all been wrapped around that concept. And so stepping back and go, so what is it that I see my life looking like? And can I stop and go? Can I do what I want when I want to? And what does that look like for me? Yeah.
Thank you. Questions from the group? Doesn't have to be a scenario. You can ask any question from any of their presentations.
I've got something. So where do you draw the line on grace? I hear this, that I've got to give myself grace and all this, but do I just let things fall apart? Where does that land?
It's a great question.
I don't want to steal the show, so if you've got something.
That's the question. I mean,
Well, at least I hit that then.
Yeah.
Oh, like where do you, like, are you thinking about something specific?
Well, I mean, it's all kinds of. Well, I mean, so you're saying I got a 16-year-old and 18-year-old, and that's all this work. I got a 2-year-old and a 5-month-old at home right now. Right, I've just been put in the last couple of years into a position with a lot more responsibility than I've ever had in the past, right? I've got to balance those two things. And where do I give myself that grace and not just let things fall apart, right? With everything, with being there for my kids, with keeping myself healthy, with making sure everything gets done at work, what is all that?
So I would say that you look at how you're showing up in different areas and break it into those different areas. And then say, okay, can I live with me being an A student, B student, C student, D student in these areas? And when I say that, I'm just giving you a grade system. So you're like, okay, I have an idea what that effort looks like, right? And then evaluate, like, I had to make that choice working and having littles and stuff like that. I chose to be a C- in the housework area. I chose that. I actively chose it so it wouldn't become a guilt subject for me. So I gave myself free and clear permission to not be a great housekeeper because I wanted to have more intentional time with my kids. And I wanted that time to not be barking at them and things like that. So I would break down those areas, those, you know, father, your employee, I don't know what type of work you do, caretaker, I don't know if you have a partner, because, you know, you have to choose which area you're willing to pull back or like give more, and also be okay with once you've done that and you pick the spot where you want to be A, and then you get really good at it to where it takes less effort, then you get to look at the other ones and go, well, this C minus really needs some work, and I don't have to put a lot of effort in here anymore, so I can probably bump that up a little bit. So kind of be active in choosing where you're giving yourself permission to show up differently, but it has to be what you're in alignment with. So if my identity was wrapped up in how good my head looked when people came over, that probably would not have been the place to pick. It probably wouldn't have been the grace that I was willing to give myself. So it needs to be something that you can live with, and you can still look at yourself and be proud of yourself that you're balancing it in a way that's in alignment with you.
Okay, so basically the concept of grace is a tool to allow you to concentrate on whatever task you're prioritizing.
Grace is being proud of yourself in the areas that you're allowing yourself to show up at different levels. Does that make sense? So I think it's what you said, but I think just trying to simplify it is stop being so hard on yourself if you're giving permission. If you give permission, then you don't have to be hard on yourself. I gave you permission to show up as a C+ student. So this is the expectation. You've changed it. You've changed the expectation, and you give yourself free and clear permission to show up at that level. So there's not that nagging guilt that I'm not doing enough.
Okay,
Does that help
Yeah.
better? Okay.
I think I'll tool that over for a little.
Yeah, that's a lot to soak in. Yeah, for sure.
Great answer.
Yes, Pat.
I was in a class one time where that same question came up, and the answer that was given, I thought was brilliant. I can't take credit for it, but I will share it. Grace is supposed to bring you peace, but when grace gives you consequences, that's where the line is too far.
Ah, good.
So you're wondering about, well, where have I given myself too much grace?
Yeah.
Well, if you keep giving yourself grace, well, I don't have to go to the store this week, I don't have to buy groceries this week, and all of a sudden you have no groceries, there are consequences.
That's so good. That's,
Grace, when grace brings peace, that's.
And not
When grace brings consequences, that's when it's gone too far.
Okay,
oh,
And I thought that was one of the most brilliant things I've ever
That's
heard.
beautiful.
yeah.
that's good.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. That's one.
I knew a girl named Grace once and there was some conflict.
Oh, we're gonna remember you, Pat.
Welcome to Tri-Cities, Pat.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's awesome. And thank you for being so vulnerable. I know it's tough. Yeah. Any other questions?
I got one.
Yeah.
So I wasn't a volunteer earlier, but it was almost like your scenario, Lena. No. I know people have told you it's a complete sentence, like, just say no, have boundaries, manage your time, and sometimes I feel like I do a good job, and then sometimes I'm like, that plate is full of yeses, what am I doing? And I think it's an identity thing. So do you have any tips or any ideas on how you can really hone in on your not saying yes, because you truly are saying no? And like my chairmate here was saying, like, you have kids, you have to do a good job at the business, you have community service that you do, you have extended family. How do you make that happen? I think too many yeses is preventing me for that grace. And everybody that asks me, sure, I can do that. Oh, I got that. Oh, no problem. And all of a sudden you're like, oh my God. how do I do that?
Right.
Tips or suggestions on how you can really make those boundaries pretty tight, or learn how to say no in a way where, you're not limiting yourself or saying no to
Yeah.
some amazing opportunities.
I have a ton of tips for you, but I will give them the floor first. You guys have something.
I would say what's interesting is like when even, it was Michelle or Melissa that was asking about like the job. And so again, it's an identity thing, grace, so it's interesting. We have this comparison game that we live in, and we compare to like, well, they've seem to get all their stuff together and they've got it all figured out. They're super data and they get to job on time. I mean, we have this idea that it's that. And so when we do this, when we get so expansive, we don't get to hone in. I don't know, but so I was a massage therapist for a long, so when it comes to like honing in, and the body does keep the score, to realize that and go, okay, what is it that I want? And is it okay that I mess this up sometimes? Is that okay? It's totally okay. The only person that's judging you is your own self. And we compare ourselves to like what we did yesterday to today. Like, this is the one day I love. It'll be better tomorrow. What if it isn't better tomorrow? Does that mean that was a bad day? no, it's gonna be different than tomorrow. Like tomorrow's gonna be different than today. It might not be better, but it's gonna be different. We can guarantee that. It's when we start to say that we have to be doing something, or it needs to be this so much better, or it's got to, you know, like, I just need to get all my stuff together, or if I could just figure this out. It's the battle with that thought process that's actually creating more of your anxiety. It is creating more of your pressure in your own life. And it's stepping back and going, okay, so I'm doing this. This is fun. Like, this is good times. How do I want to see myself? Can I be okay? And if somebody asks me to do something, can I say, actually, no, that's not gonna work into my schedule, but I really appreciate you asking me. You know, whatever that looks like. And how can I say that in a way that just makes me feel like I'm showing up as me and not as me comparing myself to the whole world? So I think that's one of the biggest things with us.
I love that, the mindset behind your no, right? But I will say, I had to work really hard. At first, I had to tell myself I wasn't allowed to say yes. So when requested something, my immediate response wanted to be yes. I would say, can I get some more information on that? And I will get back to you. So I had to give myself rules. So I didn't have that knee jerk, yeah, I'll do it, right? So then I became the person that asked a lot of questions, which actually drives a lot of people crazy. But it's because I want really clear understanding of what I'm agreeing to. Because I only want to agree to it if I can show up in a way that's in alignment with my performance. Right? So I ask a lot of questions. Paul knows that. I ask a lot of questions because I want to show up for you in every way that you're asking, but I also want to make sure that I can agree to it. So those are some things for you to take and go, okay, well, I won't say yes until I get used to saying, let me collect some information, I'll get back to you. And then make sure that you collect the information properly, because how many times have you said yes, and then you're like, dang, I didn't realize what I agreed to. Yeah. So it's the questions, collecting the information. What does that look like to you? And how much time would you need from me? And actually, you know, Monica has asked me for a lot of help, and she told me, she goes, wow, you have the best boundaries. And I was like, yay. It's like, that's not how I see myself. I'm still working on it. But the thing is like, I would be very clear of your limitations and what you have available. And so you might say, I can do that, but I can't do it in the time frame you're asking. Or I'm so sorry, I'm not available for that, but I think I know someone who could be helpful. So you're not shutting them down. You're still like helping, right? And that will kind of still serve the people pleasing in you that wants to be helpful. You're like, oh, I'm so sorry that I can't do it, but you know what? I might have someone. Let me connect you.
And you know, it's okay, like if it's halfway through and it's more than what you think, it's okay for you to say, you know, this is more than what I thought.
Yeah.
Cause then it gets honest with them and helps them to clarify it out more. And they go, oh, maybe I need to be better at clarifying that. And they didn't know they need to be better at it because they never had the opportunity. Nobody said anything after that.
Right.
People like, oh, okay. And then they leave and they're like, oh, I don't know what I just said. That was a crap show. Like, what happened there? As opposed to being like the person that actually does that actually can help them and help you.
Because maybe it would help them know, hey, this is a 2-person job, and you've been
Yeah.
asking one person to do it.
Absolutely.
So is that helpful?
Oh, super helpful. Yes, thank you.
Time for one more question.
I'm impressed, you guys have good questions.
So on his grace thing, you're saying that you can set your own grace, but what if you have a partner that it doesn't agree with your grace?
Like you're giving yourself grace on cleaning the house well and they don't agree with it? Yeah. I mean, the risk was there. Oh, sorry, I don't have to be the one to answer.
No, go ahead, hon. Go ahead.
Cause I have a spouse that's OCD and I'm not.
Yeah, so my husband is
Yeah.
super OCD.
So is mine.
And we actually had to talk about it, and I was like, I know that when your house feels like chaos, it makes you a little more anxious. And I have to make the choice of, do I want to be more intentional with my time with the kids, or do I want to be spending that time cleaning? And so we did talk about, you know, what the alternatives are. And so there's definitely some conversation to be had, right? And eventually I came to the point to where we agreed that, oh, I would have somebody come in and clean once we got to a level that we could afford it, right? But in the beginning, we didn't. And so it was, well, I'm gonna keep things off the floor. And this is what my version of C+ clean looks like. What's your version of, what are you okay with? And get really clear about what's tolerable for them, but also know that that target can move. Like they may think that that's okay, and then they start getting a little antsy about it, right? And so you're like, is it bothering you? Is the level that you thought you would be okay with still okay? And you guys kind of work through but also know sometimes we're gonna be faced with a compromise. And that people aren't wanting to agree to, and sometimes that happens, right? And so it might put you in a situation where you're now asking more of them. And then they're like, gosh.
So then you're gonna have their grace for your grace.
Yeah, which is not ideal, but it could lead to that. And so then you start brainstorming, and I think doing it together. Kind of like the collaboration where you get somebody's input, you get their buy-in and their investment too. And so if you collaborate this and say, hey, I'm really stuck. I need this time and space to be dedicated to my kids because I feel disconnected. And I've mapped out some areas that I'm willing to pull back from to allot that space, but it involves you.
Yeah.
Can you help me get some better ideas, or let me know if you're okay with this? And if you're not, if you think this is going to affect you too much, help me figure out some other brainstorming ideas.
For me, it's a little bit different in that, like my communication with it's more, I keep my side of the street clean and he keep his side of the street clean. And if he has different opinions of what that looks like, he's allowed to have them and I let him have them. So example, my husband came home one time, he's like, oh my gosh, this place is a mess. And I said, it is. Do you want to clean it up? And I was honest. I mean, I'm honest because he can just as much as I do. I think as women, we take this role that we have to be the one cleaning the house. I'm sorry, that's not how it works. It doesn't. And it's okay that it doesn't. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's okay that my husband has a strong opinion that I should be cleaning the house.
Well, our house is.
It doesn't.
We have a craft shit. You can definitely tell whose side's whose.
And that's a beautiful thing though,
Yeah.
because then that still allows you to be you and it allows him to be him, and it shouldn't.
Put up a curtain.
Yeah, yeah, and that's.
I'm building another shed.
Me out of that
You should, yeah.
Yeah, I love it, I love it.
All right, let's again thank our experts today. And again, you can reach out to them for more of their contact information. We will be emailing you the slides today. And the video today will be placed on YouTube as well, if you'd like to share that with others. We also again want to thank STCU for sponsoring Ask the Experts. We have a drawing. Do you mind bringing that up here, Sarah? Anybody else want to throw their business card in really fast? Last chance.
Last chance.
All three of these are donating a gift.
Put 5 of my cards on.
Okay, the first one is actually for chocolate in a wellness seminar. Okay, all right, Josie. Couple of bonds, cards, you know. Yes, okay. That is from Angela. Ian has donated his calendar and habit stacker, which he only gives to his clients. But today, Heather gets that.
Maybe it has something on cleaning in there.
And Lena has donated $100 off one of her coaching packages. And then, did Nicole leave already? Oh, got the present to win, sorry. Hang in there. All right, Myra? Yay. All right. Get up here for you. All right, if you would all do a favor and fill out this survey. And you can just leave it on the table and flip it upside down. If you are, we also have a QR code here for you on Zoom. If you wouldn't mind scanning that and filling that out, that will help us continue to make these valuable for, into 2024.
Quality control.
Our next Ask the Expert is usually the fourth Tuesday of the month. It's the third Tuesday of the month, if you don't, unless you want to come on Christmas or day after Christmas, but I'm guessing you don't. So the third Tuesday of the month is December 19th. If you want to change your calendar there from 3 to 4:30. And the topic will be on giving better presentations. If you are petrified of speaking in public or giving presentations even to your team at work, we've got Isaac Butts and Jan McDonald who will be here. Who are gonna really rock it and help you come up with ways to feel more comfortable in front of a group, how to design a presentation so you feel more confidence that it is one of the best people skills that you can have. So I hope you'll join us again. All right, may your business continue to prosper as we go in this fourth quarter of 2023. Thanks for coming.